How many of you have ever been told you weren't good enough? Maybe it was a coach, a teacher, or even that voice in your own head at 2 a.m. Imagine being 15 years old. You're obsessed with basketball. You live for the sound of the ball hitting the hardwood. You go to try out for the varsity team, confident you've got the skills, only to walk up to that list on the gym door and your name isn't there. You go home, lock yourself in your room, and you cry. That kid wasn't just some random teenager. That was Michael Jordan. Now, we know him as His Airness. We know the 6 NBA championships, the 2 Olympic gold medals, and the shoes that half of you are probably wearing right now. But Michael Jordan isn't inspiring because he could jump high. He's inspiring because he was a master of the long game. Today, we're going to look at how a kid who was cut became a king through 3 things: relentless persistence, an almost scary level of self-motivation, and the kind of discipline that would make a drill sergeant sweat. Michael wasn't born a legend. Growing up in Wilmington, North Carolina, he wasn't even the best athlete in his own house. His brother Larry used to beat him constantly in one-on-one. In fact, Michael famously said that if Larry had been 6 feet 3 inches instead of 5 feet 8 inches, Michael would have just been known as Larry's brother. When Michael got cut from that varsity team in 10th grade, he didn't quit. He used that sting as fuel. Every morning before school, he'd go to the gym and practice until his arms burned. He grew 4 inches, worked twice as hard as everyone else, and eventually made the team. He went from a nobody to a star at the University of North Carolina, hitting the game-winning shot as a freshman. But even then, the NBA wasn't a cakewalk. For years, he was the best player in the league, but couldn't beat the Detroit Pistons. They literally had a strategy called the Jordan Rules, which basically meant beat Michael Jordan up until he stops moving. He lost, he failed, he got bruised, but he never ever stayed down. The thing about Jordan is that he viewed failure differently than most of us. Most people see a wall and turn around. Michael saw a wall and figured out how to climb it, go through it, or knock it down. When the Pistons kept beating him, he didn't complain that the game was unfair. He went into the weight room. He packed on 15 pounds of muscle so he could take the hits. He understood that persistence is not just doing the same thing over and over. It's evolving until the obstacle is no longer an obstacle. What kept him going? It was his internal why. Michael was famously competitive. He would turn anything into a motivation. If an opponent didn't shake his hand, he'd score 50 points on them the next day. If a teammate beat him in cards, he'd stay up all night studying the game to win the next round. He lived by a code. I can accept failure. Everyone fails at something. But I can't accept not trying. This mindset is what allowed him to return to basketball after a brief, and let's be honest, mediocre stint in professional baseball. People laughed. They said he was washed up. He used that laughter as the spark to come back and win 3 more championships in a row. We love the highlights, the dunks, and the buzzer beaters. But those were just the results. The real Jordan happened at 5 a.m. His discipline was legendary. He was always the first person in the gym and the last one to leave. He didn't just practice until he got it right. He practiced until he couldn't get it wrong. He famously said, "I've always believed that if you put in the work, the results will come." He didn't believe in shortcuts. He didn't believe in load management. He believed that if you were paid to play, you played at 110%, because there was a kid in the stands who might be seeing you for the first and only time. Now, don't get it twisted. Michael wasn't a robot. He was a guy who loved cigars, golf, and trash talking. There's a famous story where he was playing against a rookie who dared to talk back to him. Michael looked at him, scored a basket, and then told him, "Welcome to the NBA." He once played a game with a 103-degree fever, the famous flu game. He was literally being carried off the court by his teammates. He looked like he was about to pass out, but he still dropped 38 points. Why? Because he was human enough to get sick, but disciplined enough to refuse to let it be an excuse. To help us wrap our heads around his philosophy, let's look at some of his most famous words. He said, "I've missed more than 9,000 shots in my career. I've lost almost 300 games. 26 times. I've been trusted to take the game-winning shot and missed. I failed over and over and over again in my life, and that is why I succeed." Lesson: failure isn't the opposite of success. It's the fuel for it. If you aren't missing shots, you aren't playing the game. He said, "Talent wins games, but teamwork and intelligence win championships." Lesson: you can be the smartest person in the room, but you won't get far alone. Michael had to learn to trust Scottie Pippen and his teammates to reach the top. He said, "Some people want it to happen, some wish it would happen. Others make it happen." Lesson: wishing is for birthdays. Making it happen is for Mondays, Tuesdays, and every day in between. He said, "My attitude is that if you push me towards something that you think is a weakness, then I will turn that perceived weakness into a strength." Lesson: don't hide your flaws. Work on them until they become the reason you win. He said, "You must expect great things of yourself before you can do them." Lesson: confidence isn't ego. It's a prerequisite. If you don't believe you belong on the varsity team of life, no one else will either. He said, "Just play, have fun, enjoy the game." Lesson: amidst the discipline and the grit, don't forget why you started. If there's no joy in the hustle, you'll burn out before you reach the finish line. So, here's the truth. Most of us aren't going to be 6 feet 6 inches with a 48-inch vertical. Most of us aren't going to have a billion-dollar shoe brand. But every single one of us is going to face a list on the gym door. You're going to get rejected from a college, lose a job, or have a dream fall apart right in front of your face. When that happens, I want you to remember that 15-year-old kid in North Carolina. Don't let the rejection define you. Let it drive you. Michael Jordan didn't become the greatest of all time because he was chosen. He became the GOAT because he chose to work harder than anyone else on the planet. Success isn't about never falling. It's about having the discipline to get up, the persistence to keep going, and the courage to take the next shot, even if you missed the last 10. Go out there and make it happen.